The 24th of June, and I thought I'd video these orange eye blue. So previously, before I had the light on the tank, it was really difficult to sort of get any video of these. I think they just weren't illuminated enough, and on the dark substrate it was quite difficult, but we have quite a few in here and they are sort of scattered about a bit. I do have snails and limpets and stuff as well, but there's I've done really well with these on this tropical soil. Bizarrely, they didn't do well on anything else for me, but on the tropical soil they've done absolutely fantastically. So thought I'd start the week off with a little bit of video for you guys on these. Sorry about the shaking. Just a little midweek update. I've not really done much in the shrimp room, so nothing much changed, just done water changes. By the time you guys see this, you'll notice that I've got some Endler guppies that were used to eradicate or remove as many seed shrimp as possible from a couple of tanks. Likewise, the tank that's just starting to algae up nicely now, the tank that was Beginner's Guide to Caridina Part 2 is here. So that's ready for shrimp. That's sort of 20 days old. So next week I'm getting shrimp for that. The tank on the bottom, once cycled, so 2 or 3 weeks, will house the mixed. And then once the mixed is reset up, I'll be setting that tank up to move stuff down. Now my plan is, once I've moved those fancy tigers up to there, excuse the reflection, I'll show you that in a minute. When I've moved the fancy tigers up to there, I'm tempted to run 2 mixed tanks, and I'm probably going to have a massive cull on my blues. I'm getting something new for up here. Massive cull on my blues, massive cull on my Galaxy tank. Might completely remove those fancies out. I'll have a cull on the fancy tigers and we'll sort of go from there. I'm also tempted to move the orange eye blue out into a bigger tank, and I've now got my mesh to start doing some stuff with the Acacia moss. So I'll show you that. Actually, that came today. So I've got some 5cm ones already made. If anyone's interested, these are on the website, and I'll send the grown-in ones before I send the freshly tied ones. But I'm also going to do some larger ones, some 8cm ones. So those have came today, along with a new sign. So that was what you saw in the reflection. And when it came, it was literally cracked in half. So I have glued it. I did get a refund for it. I have glued it. It's just going to hang here. I'm hoping that the glue, it's just a super glue, holds. And what I'll do is, I just thought it was nice for when we're doing live stuff in here, but I can switch that off. It's just USB with a switch on it. So that's pretty much all we've done, really. Nothing with the pods. Still got no frogs, but again, you'll see an updated video. Oh, I'm not sure if you see an updated one, but I've got new stuff in there. Haven't really done anything with those. I have moved some baby red galaxies into the red galaxy tank, because these threw a few red galaxies, and also they threw some blue steels, but I've picked those out and those have gone into the mix for now. And as I say, I need to have a good work through here, because there are some, oh, it's just dimmed down, but there are some, it's due to go off soon, this light. There are some that need culling out of here, not culling physically, or just removing and putting into the mix tank. So that's a job that I've got to do. And then I need to do something with this tank, because I don't want to keep the orange Neo anymore. Not sure if I'm going to do another Neo tank, possibly, but I need to do something with this tank, and I've got some ideas. Got all the snails in, happy to keep the snails in. It's going to be a neutral pH or slightly alkaline pH that I do in there. And that's probably me for this week. So I'll add this to the vlog. If anyone's interested in any shrimp, in any quantity is sort of the lower grade stuff, let me know, because I will be selling some stuff off cheap before it goes into a mixed tank, and I might even shut down the Tangerine Tiger tank as well. Well, I'm going to do a mixed Tiger tank, so I've already got a mixed Tiger tank there, but I might move them into a bigger mixed Tiger tank. Not sure yet. They might just end up in a mixed tank, to be honest, but we'll see how it goes. Reach out to me if you're on our Facebook group. So Facebook group's called UK Shrimp Fanatics. Make sure you answer all the questions and reach out to me on there. You'll work out who I am. Take care for now, everybody. Made a bit of an executive decision today. I'd originally planned to move the Fancy Tigers into one of the top low boys, but based on everything that's been happening and stuff that I needed to do in the room, I've actually decided to move them elsewhere. So let me just flip the camera and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm in the process of cycling, well, it is cycled that tank. pH is a little bit higher because I'm using the SL Aquasoil. It's giving me about 5.961. I can't quite sort of work it out. My pH pen is saying 6, but other tests I'm doing are saying slightly higher. So the Fancy Tigers are currently, or were, on Master Soil at the moment on 7 pH, and it's really bugging me. So what I'm in the process of doing is actually moving those guys as part of a Caridina for Beginners video into this tank. So there are a few tannins in there which I might need to sort of put some Purigen or something in to try and remove those, but it might just be the reflection of the algae and stuff. So I'm actually dripping those currently and moving those into there, so they're still in a decent position for me. And as a consequence of that, what I've done is, knowing that the crystals are more sensitive to pH, I've made a decision to move the crystals up onto this environment. I've caught about 13 that sort of went over the weir in here, back into this container, and rather than drip them, I'm actually just using the flow on that breeder box. Might leave them in there for a few days, but we are starting to get algae and stuff build up in here. Nothing on the walls. There is algae on the walls, just not a lot in comparison to this tank, but I might leave them in the breeder for a couple of days. The original plan was to add to that colony, which I'm still going to do. So Daniel I'm buying 20 Hinamaru no entry PRL off Daniel, and those will sort of go to those as well. But I counted about 40 babies and there's 3 adults left. Lost another one. So but the pH they were in was 5.8 and this one's more 5.5. So and slightly lower GH of about 4 in the tank they were in, and they seem to do well on that. So that's what they're getting moved on to anyway. Just looking for babies at the moment before I empty and reset this tank. And the tigers have made very light work of all that biofilm. Just adding to the vlog then, the bottom shelf, this is, so it's bottom shelf on the big rack, and I'm in the process of emptying it. I've got 99.999% of the babies out. I'll give it one last sort of scout. I'm sure I've chucked a couple away. Unfortunately, you can't get everything. I can see something moving actually, so I'll just I'll slide it out, put a light over it, and have another good bird's eye view. But they're actually in. So they've all moved up to here, and there's stacks of babies. And I added a bit of extra rich one to this tank just to see if I could lower the pH a little bit, because the SL was a little bit higher than normal. I'm half tempted to add this matten up into the corner there and start this reset on a UGF box that I've got in the cupboard, an old one. Just sort of go with the UGF all on the bottom shelf apart from the last one. And I'm really pleased to say that those spotted pintos, the few that we had left, have had babies, and there's quite a few of them. There's not millions like the PRL, but there are loads. And for those that haven't seen this, I moved the PRL into this top tank, and there are absolutely stacks and stacks of babies. I might need to turn the additional light off because the algae is quite hard in here, and there is a bit of blue light in there, but plenty of biofilm for them anyway. So, and we ended up with 2 adults. I did put 3 in but lost 1. They are old, so that, you know, they probably are end of life, but at least we got a decent generation. I mean, look, there's just littered with them. Hopefully next week I'll get my delivery, so there should be 20 more adults going into here, and then who knows, maybe I can keep them and the population will sort of explode a little bit for me. Got the tank cleaned out, back's painted. I've got my float valve set to off at the moment, so we'll switch it on at the end. What I'm using in this one is I'm using a Shrimps Affair UGF box. So this is one of the first UGF boxes that I got. It does have a little crack in it, but damaged in shipping. But I need to get the airline fitted in, and because I've moved that Matten tower up into the tank above, I do need to feed an airline down the back, which is always fun. A little trick when trying to put an airline through a really sort of tight space that I found really effective is if you cut the airline, just focus that, if you cut the airline at a bit of an angle, it goes through really easy, and then when you get it out the other side, you can just square that back off. Another little snippet that I found to sort of help me is because I'm going down the back of a rack, when I've got the piece out, just make sure that it's enough to bring to the front. So if you need, it's not too bad with the UGF box because you can always disconnect it, but if you need to do anything or trim a bit of airline, you've got a bit to play with. So I always sort of make sure there's enough extra, if that makes sense. And then if we just sort of zoom out a little bit, this is the piece of airline here. So I've got a big roll, and I can sort of move and adjust as I need. You can probably tell the soil's wet, and the reason being is because when I emptied another tank to move stuff with Aquasolam in, the Aquasolam was still really good, still giving sort of 5.7, 5.8 after a year. I'm only moving tigers down here, so I'm quite happy with that as a pH and don't mind if that rises a little bit. I do need to keep an eye on it, but I've literally just washed this and reused it, and as I say, it is a year old now. Previously I was struggling to get Aquasolam in because I needed to spend such a large amount of money as a minimum order, and I've spoken to the supplier and we've worked out another way, so I have got Aquasolam back in stock, and the recommended retail price has gone up, but I'm going to hold it the same price as I was last year when I went, you know, before I ran out of it. So I'm using a separate float valve. I'm just holding it at the moment because you always need to fill up your UGF box first. If you don't, it'll just float away. Now that the UGF box is full, I can clip my float valve onto the front and just leave it, go and get a cup of tea and some toast. I suppose this is the downside of reusing soils that you've just rinsed through, but it will settle. We're in no rush to cycle, so, well, we are in a rush, but it is what it is. Saturdays are usually my water change days, but as you can see, I've got a bit of evaporation going on, so this water wasn't preset. I've actually set the tank, so what I'm going to do is just connect it up and just top up the tanks on the other racks. It's about 30 TDS, which is as near as I'm going to get it really, but let's top these up. The other reason I'm not doing water changes today is because we're having a barbecue. My son's decided to invite loads of his mates, not loads, but a few, and we're helping him prepare food and partake of that with him. We'll wrap that up for this week then. So as always, if you've enjoyed this or any of our videos, don't forget to hit the like button, leave us a comment. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Over 50% of those that watch don't subscribe to the channel, and the only way we grow is through subs. So until next time, everyone, take care. Bye bye.